There has been another dev Q&A for New World, and there is some really spicy hints in here at what is to come for New World. It smells like something big is coming, and I'm liking what I'm hearing. So we're going to go through this. It was originally on Discord, but Commander Az, I've got to say thank you very much to them. They have put this on Reddit, and I much prefer the layout here. I find it a little bit easier to read. The sad thing is we don't get to see who asked the question, who answered the question, so apologies to those people. Thank you all to the devs who answered these questions, including one of mine. Let's begin, shall we? We're going to do it in the order presented because there might be some like repetition. We'll just get to that when we get to that. The first question is about Voidblade. When is it getting nerfed? It's going to get nerfed in Season 9, but then Season 10 will have a lot of power changes across the board that are going to completely mix up the meta. For anybody wondering what that basically means, is Season 9 is just a normal season and is coming like late July or early August, and Season 10 is probably an expansion. Could be something more dramatic than that, but an expansion I think is odds on at this point. We'll get more onto what's coming in that during this. If you want to come and talk to me about any of this, by the way, I will probably be live on Twitch. I'll be live on Twitch. I mean, I'm on Discord as well. You can join the Discord. There's a link in the description. Also to the Twitch. And then there's a question though, which I really like because it sort of sets some things in motion a little bit. And that's when can we expect news about Season 9 and the expansion coming later this year? Weirdly, they don't deny that there's an expansion, which I'm not taking as big evidence, but it's interesting nonetheless. Then they say news about upcoming releases will be coming within the next few weeks. And here's a big one, right? Because traditionally, Amazon games focus only on the next season, and then they let that season happen, and then they announce the following season. We've sort of seen a little bit of a trend away from that. So what we've seen recently, for example, is in Season 8, yes, sure, we get the Season 8 content, but we also got a preview of what's to come in Season 9, all the Capture the Flag modes and stuff like that. And the same happened in Season 7. We got previews for the Season 8 Outpost Rush. Season 9's probably not going to have a great deal in it that we don't already know about. That's not to say that I'm very interested in Season 9. I like the PvP modes. But what it might mean is that we start seeing hints of Season 10, aka an expansion that we think is coming, a bit sooner than we typically would. I don't know if we'll get previews of that because I don't know if it makes sense, but I wouldn't be surprised to get at least some sniffs as what's coming in the expansion, even in the Season 9 reveal, which could be very juicy indeed. Speaking of that, is there going to be a raid in 2025? Well, they say stay tuned because, well, that's again probably something that's going to see in the expansion. Then the next question, I don't know who'd write such a big question like this that, you know, nobody wants to answer. Oh, I do know, it was me. Basically, I was talking about pre-mades. Pre-mades have an advantage. We saw in the recent video about the Capture the Flag that 5-stack pre-mades were winning. I think they said 59% of the time. So a 9% extra swing, right? Which is pretty crazy when you think about it in detail. And I think they said 2 to 3s were maybe a couple of percent, and then 4 stacks were like 3 or 4%. I don't remember the exact number. And what they said is that we're going to basically make 2 different queues. The 5 stacks are going on their own queue, and everybody else is going in a different queue. And my point is that the 5 stackers are just going to go into 4 stacks because they're the tryhards trying to win. And I think the 4 stack percentage is going to rise because the tryhards are also now going to be there instead of being purely in 5 stacks. By the way, I'm pretty confident that that 5 stack Capture the Flag mode will probably never actually pop. Anyway, TLDR, I basically asked if there would be a solo queue mode. And then they say that they are actually working on a solo queue mode. And this was JR, by the way, so thank you to you specifically. I don't have the rest of the devs, so I don't know who's who. And they've discussed having queues for separate solo and group in existing modes. By the way, that's not what I want. I actually think if you just don't bother with groups on some of them. I don't know which mode. I'm not asking for all of the modes. Maybe just a couple, right? So having one solo queue friendly mode is good enough for me. Just one mode that I want where it's like, I know I'm just going against people who are like me. I'm not going against a 5 stack or a 3 stack in an arena or anything like that. And then they also said that they do allow 3, they're back to allowing 3 stacks in arena, but it does adjust the MMR, which I think is the case across the board now, right? Basically, if you join as a group, your MMR effectively gets raised a little bit because you're in a group. Apparently there's some improvements that they're making around balance in the matches. Pretty decent, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I'm very excited about the new mode. Bare Bones would have been an interesting version to do that in, but fair enough, I'll take it. I did also ask about haste, but that didn't get an answer. However, it does later on, so yeah, we'll stay tuned for that one. Next question's about guild houses, and I'm just going to gloss over some of these because it's like, yeah, we're thinking about it, we don't have anything to share. Not really that interesting, right? I mean, it's interesting, but not that interesting. Next question, kind of interesting if you like M3s. basically what's the point of doing an M3 gold, because it's effectively very similar to an M1, and they do say that the rewards are a little bit scuffed, and this is something that they're going to continue to look at. And there's a big gear overhaul, reward overhaul coming at the end of this year in season 10, so stay tuned for that, I guess. This is fair enough. They're not going to do anything drastic now because something drastic is coming soon. TM. Next question suggests there might be fresh this year, which is a little bit unusual because normally fresh is like every 2 years it seems, but it's like, are there any plans to remove the fresh start from the world so that people can actually join them? And they do say it's our plan to convert the fresh worlds into standard worlds, opening up these worlds to a larger group of players. We'll share more about this closer to season 9, which kind of suggests by the season 10 point, they will be merged. Now, the question is, will there be new servers? Because every time they've done that before, every time we've got rid of fresh and squished it down, we've ended up getting new servers to go along with it. I don't know. The jury's out on that one. Maybe they'll just squish them and just, ditch the idea of having 2 separate servers ever again. Or maybe we will get fresh. Honestly, I don't know. Next question is, are you going to bring back any of the Twitch drops? Because some of the console players or, players who didn't play at the time don't have them. And they said, yeah, we'll look into it. Fair enough. I don't have a problem with bringing Twitch drops back, partly because I would benefit from it. So I also don't think this idea of it being super exclusive makes any sense. So I'm okay with that. Next question is, any incentive to optimize open world PvP or any ways of improving it? Because a lot of people are just standing around waiting for queues to pop. Then they address the idea that people are standing around waiting for queues to pop, which is true, but apparently they've got some stuff working behind the scenes to help improve that, which I don't, we're not going to know what that is, I guess. But open world in PvP, they're not doing anything specific, but it's something that they don't want to neglect in the long term. When's the Summer Medley Fair? Well, that's season 9. That's probably late July. If you go off the in-game time, that's late July. Any hints on the next skill after farming? They're not going to share anything about this right now. They're still working on farming, so I wouldn't necessarily expect that in season 10 either, by the way. Are we getting an expansion DLC size amount of actual content anytime soon? Hey, stay tuned for the next couple of weeks. So it does really suggest that we are going to get expansion news when we get season 9 news, which is very, very, very juicy. Any plans for new territories to be added? And I mean, I don't really get the start of the answer. It says they're aiming about 3 zones ahead of time in various different phases. So they're already working on 3 zones. I mean, are we getting content for years and years? Is New World not getting killed by Chron Odyssey? Could be huge. Then they've got, well, basically what they're saying, they've got active development, concept approved, and then active exploration. Probably the reverse order of that, right? It's actually active exploration, then concept approved, then active development, but fair enough. And then they have a bucket of 20 different ideas. So yeah, I mean, they're working on zones. We know effectively a new zone is coming this year pretty much. So yeah, I mean, okay, it'll be very interesting to see what they've got up their sleeve. Next question is about FOMO, which I kind of get, but it's basically like any plans to allow you to buy previous season passes. Other games do this, and I don't really have a problem with it. They say they're actively working on ways to bring back season pass content in a way that is accessible and positive for players. All right, I mean, it's not something I personally give 2 poops about, but it makes sense. The next one, I think, is a little bit of a hint of the weapon type, by the way, that we're going to get, because we're getting a new weapon. It says this is going to be lightning, arcane, poison damage, like fire frost and all this kind of stuff. And they said that the flail uses arcane, poison from the bow is nature, so is the life staff. But what they basically say in the key part is that there's no immediate plans for additional damage types, which rules effectively out the lightning staff or anything else that is like specifically magical. Very strongly suggests it's either going to be dual pistols or dual daggers. Of the 2 of those, I really don't know which one is likely, but they're working on one of them that's not going to change damage type. So yeah, a good hint. Also a little bit sad. I sort of hope eventually they do like a lightning staff or something. But the next question is, there is an endgame progression system in development. Can we be sure that this system will finally become the main one in New World, and there will be only minor adjustments in the future rather than full changes to the system? We keep getting like reworked endgame because every endgame in New World feels very shallow and pointless. And well, what they say is ideally the core of the system that we're developing won't change over time, but I believe that we have built a system that will allow for some flexibility to change and evolve as the game and its content and rewards continue to do. Basically, they're hoping that it's sort of like, this is the one, but it's obviously going to change a little bit, because if it doesn't change, it'll probably get really stagnant. There's more about progression later on though, so keep tuned for that. I mean, to be fair, what the next question is effectively that as well. Will the endgame progression system be designed in a way that combines horizontal and vertical progression, so that even months after a major update it's still fun to play? Now, for me, I like vertical progression. I think it's actually pretty important. Horizontal progression, it's very difficult to do right, I personally believe. But anyway, yes, you stated our primary goal for this feature. We recognize that vertical progression alone results in content that loses its reward incentives, so our future plans are to do smaller vertical progression updates and rely more on horizontal to keep rewards interesting across the entire game. And I mean, I don't know, part of the problem with New World is that we don't get enough content for the vertical progression. I don't know if the solution to that is simply well, let's make the same content but try and change the reward so that it's horizontal progression. I mean, it might be. Without knowing what the system is, it's too early to say. Next question is basically, are you doing any balance changes in Season 9? And they say we are going to be focused on balance updates as well as a few more artifacts and reworking 3 existing artifacts to mix it up. However, for Season 9, well, sorry, not for Season 9, but for an upcoming season, we are planning a massive overhaul. So we're getting complete perk rework, complete gearing rework in Season 10. So there's no point really massively changing everything, only to do it again. So it's like, we'll make some tweaks, right? Void Blade's getting nerfed, etc. But don't expect anything like truly mental. The next question is kind of the same as what we just had, but it's a bit more in depth, right? It's all about like, why is all of the content unrewarding, except like the hive and all this kind of stuff. But there's some really interesting bits in here, specifically this last phrase, but we'll read the whole thing. And they say the goal with the overhaul is to start to address these types of problems. It's built in a way that it's going to be scalable long term and allows us to make all content meaningful instead of just pinnacle content pieces. Because right now, like, we only really need to do like the hive, the worm, etc., which I sort of like, but you know, is a bit of a problem in itself. And they're bringing back Umbul's V2 in case you didn't know. So the Umbul system we are going to use is more akin to the old one in that it's systemic and will allow you to upgrade any gear in a specific gear score range, making more content viable if you like the perks on the gear. Kind of confused myself, by the way. There's a bit where they talk about perks on gear, but I don't want to spoil it till we get to that. So just bear with me. Thankfully, I don't think you have to bear with me that long because this one is effectively the same kind of thing. They say previously you like let us you said that the artifacts would be easier to change perks on. Are there any updates to this? And then they say we have a large scale reward overhaul that will impact how players interact with gear going forward. This includes an Umbul system with ways to upgrade your gear score on endgame gear, more player customization by allowing players to socket more perks of their choosing, not just gems, as well as new set bonuses on gear. The goal with all these systems is to improve our endgame chase and allow for more expression of player power and customization by giving players more control over more aspects of their gear. Now, this is actually a pretty big one, right? First and foremost, you can now actually, well, you will be able to change the perks on your gear a little bit more freely. I don't know if that applies to all the perks, or will it be like every item will have a third perk like an artifact that you can switch? I'm not sure about that, but either way, being able to do that sounds really good. And obviously like gear sets with new bonuses on them, that's pretty cool. So a lot of people have asked for gear sets before. If you don't know, like in World of Warcraft Classic, for example, you might have a paladin set, and the more items of that set that you have, the more unique effects you get. So it sort of encourages you to wear it. So for example, like Frigid Dawn, a lot of you might be familiar with that. If 3 items of the Frigid Dawn are on, maybe you get an extra effect. So that could be really, really cool. And those two things alone sound very exciting. Obviously with the Umbul shards coming back, a lot of people are a little bit excited for that. Veterans are probably excited about this. Will they be able to keep the chase up forever? Probably not, but you know, I'd rather enjoy myself in a short time than not enjoy myself over a long time. So yeah, that sounds really good to me. Next question is about saving attributes and weapon skills. They basically say we're not saving weapon skill trees at the minute. That's not actually in the immediate future, but attributes getting saved to your gear sets, that says relatively soon. I take that to mean season 10 personally. Next one's actually pretty interesting. It says, have you got any plans for an updated free-for-all zone with ways of incentivizing people? And they actually say we got some updates in season 9, which surprised me a little bit. But that's going to affect both the rewards in the free-for-all zone as well as some new gameplay mechanics. I wouldn't be surprised if we get something there from like the PvP server. Yeah, could be interesting. They've got to be careful here that they don't make it super toxic, but yeah, okay, fair enough. The next question is basically, what's the roadmap for PvP? You got anything like Cyrodiil? I'm obviously paraphrasing here. And then they say, we're not planning on that, right? But they say at some point they'll have a look at the future of war and revamp open world PvP. The next one is, do you got any plans to change wars? Because it's like 1%. And then they say, absolutely, we're making more accessible content, more accessible to companies practicing wars. It's actually pretty cool, right? Like if you want to, you know, if you're a rogue and you're your boy Willie or somebody like that and you want to like practice and get new people in, great, you can do that. But they also say the plan is to make it more accessible outside of companies. I don't see how they're going to do it, but they're planning it. And then I did ask about haste, but somebody else asked about haste. And what they basically say is that they're nerfing haste in season 9. The max haste is going from 50% to 40%, and then items are actually getting the haste changed and reduced either by 15% or well, anywhere between 15% to 50%. And the potent alacrity perk is getting nerfed, or it's getting changed effectively. Haste is just, I don't know, it makes it toxic, right? Because it kind of like makes it a case of the haves and the haves not. And I don't think it's just a very fun gameplay mechanic. I I don't know. I kind of get it, but I always feel like it should be just really like a short burst of haste that might help you escape if you're like a bold guy or something. It shouldn't be like perma haste where you're just running around and you're zooming and nobody can catch you. I don't know. I don't like it at all personally. Next question's about like, are you going to do anything with empty zones? And they basically say, yeah, we did that with Cutlass Keys. We're going to do that with Reek Water. And then I think it's going to be after that. They said effectively we're going to do Morningdale, which is kind of cool. I like Morningdale. It's one of my favorite zones. Being British, it fits right in with my vibe, but there's no reason to go there pretty much. Next question's about perks. They're completely reworking perks, so we're not going to touch this one too much. Next question's about artifacts. They said they're actually going to slow down the artifacts, right? Because they're getting too many and some of the effects are just boring. So in season 9, they're going to rework 3 of them and add 3 new ones. And 2 of them are going to be based on the Conqueror's items functionality, which I've almost completely forgot, apart from Yeaterson's hammer. So I hope we see Yeaterson's hammer. The others, I don't remember. Let me know which one you'd want to see. This actually is a very interesting question, like philosophically wise. It's like, what do you think about forcing PvE players to PvP and vice versa? Isn't it better to let players choose and earn their own rewards? And this answer, I think, is almost perfect for an MMO, basically. And what they say is at a high level, forcing PvE players to PvP for PvE power is our top priority to avoid. To be clear, that basically suggests that PvE is way more important to the player base than PvP. And I sort of think other games could learn from this. Dune Awakening may have like gimped its game because it didn't consider this first, but whatever, let's not talk about that right now. And then they say PvP players always need to do some amount of PvE, obviously, since that's a core part of the game. Like very few games are let you literally just PvP from the get-go. So almost everybody needs to do an element of PvE, whereas not all PvEers have to do an element of PvP. So they avoid that. Kind of think that makes sense. However, we do respect PvP players' time, and we don't want to force them to spend loads of times PvEing if all they want to do is PvP. That's a high-level goal, but obviously the devil's in the details. And I kind of fully agree with this, right? In a game like New World, at least, I'm not talking about like Mortal Online 2 or anything like that, but in a game like New World, every PvPer has had to do some PvE because you've had to like level up and do dungeons and all this kind of stuff to get your gear and progress. Whereas PvEers, a lot of them just simply don't want to touch PvP, right? And in a game like this, that's the philosophy that they keep. Make it so that PvEers don't want to have to do PvP or aren't forced to do PvP. But PvPers, they will have to do a little bit of PvE, but don't keep them there forever, right? Don't have them grinding it day in, day out to try and get better gear for PvP, because they wouldn't like that either. Really interesting question, and I actually thought a really good answer. I know some of you won't like it, but I thought it was good. Can they tell us anything about the procedural expedition mode? Absolutely not. It's designed with replayability in mind, but no info. You doing anything about time to kill? Because it adjusts, healing adjusts it so much. Yeah, we're changing the whole game, so we're not going to share this with you right now. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the gist. You're thinking about doing any PvP mode where it's like 3 teams instead of 2? We like this idea, but basically we can't change out post rush because it would be a pain in the backside, so we might explore it down the line. I'm paraphrasing again, but again, you get the gist. Next question's a little bit of a technical one I didn't even realize. Basically, enemies are now getting like CC immunity. Now, they say without an indicator, but there actually is an indicator, it's just not very obvious. And what they've done here is apparently the gold characters get a 2-second window of stagger immunity so that they're a little bit more challenging. And apparently there is a little thing that shows you that. They might review this. I didn't even know this existed. I had no idea about this. But yeah, fair enough. That's an interesting one if you're interested in that. Last question that they have here. This actually isn't the order that they answered them and whatever, but it doesn't really matter. It's like, you doing anything else with aim assist? Because people are like turning on aim assist and getting 100% accuracy with certain abilities. And for this one, there's no changes in season 9, but they might look to do this in future seasons. All right, fair enough. I don't really know where the aim assist is. At the minute, I've not really played enough to have any statement on this. I didn't think it was that bad, but as I said, I don't play enough. All in all, I think there's some really juicy bits in here, but it's a little bit like hidden, right? I mean, it's hidden on Discord. You go on Discord, trust me, it's not better laid out than this. But there's interesting bits like the changes to the free-for-all zone that I didn't really expect. Being able to change your perks gonna be pretty damn hot. Set bonuses, which we heard about, but now pretty much confirmed that it'll be season 10. The Umbral V2 mechanic sounds really good. Confirmed that it's probably effectively either dual daggers or pistols because there's no extra damage type coming. Interesting that they've literally got several zones ahead of time, so they're working. I mean, they've got ideas for 20, but I'm assuming they're working on several. Pretty much confirmed that we are getting a season 9 and season 10. One of my last questions in the last Q&A was, are you going to ditch seasons because you're not doing 4 a year, you're doing 3? Well, they proved me wrong this time, right? Because they did 1 in January, 1 in May, then season 9's going to be, let's say, late July, August. And then season 10 will be the expansion, which I suspect now will probably be either late October or maybe November. I think we might get a new time slot. And I think that's because, this is a little bit of an off tangent kind of thing, is what they've always tried to do is get 2 seasons at the end of the year. They were always trying to get like early October and then like a new season in December. And the one time they did that, they had no content in that season and got rinsed for it. That was season 4. And then I think they tried it the year after, but things probably got a little bit delayed. I don't remember what it was, season 7 came in January instead of probably December. So I think what they've done is said, like, look, we're just struggling to do that, right? So what if we make our season either late October and November and we just stick to that? And I think that's probably a good idea. They'll probably make more money doing that. I do like the fact that they're doing a solo only mode. A bit of me thinks that we're now seeing the effect of the Romanians actually pumping. Yes, we know Scott Lane's probably, he's gone off to what I assume is Lord of the Rings. Some of the devs have probably gone off to Lord of the Rings, but the Romanian studio they've been there now a year and a month. They're probably helping making some of these modes, some of the assets for these modes at least. And I think we're seeing their effect, because in a way, it kind of feels like they're doing more content now than they've almost ever done before, which logically should not be the case. So I think the Romanians are somewhat involved and they're handling this transition to Lord of the Rings with some, obviously, with JR and Katie and all those people. A bit of a long one, possibly boring depending on your point of view. I'm not bored, I'm just tired because I just woke up. What I'm going to do is edit this video and start streaming, so join me there or don't. What you should do is let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm very excited about this expansion now. Now that Chrono Odyssey is a little bit rough around the edges and, possibly going to be next year, I'm excited about this expansion. I mean, I was excited about it before, but I'm excited now. I am also going to be looking at possibly Ion 2, but there's no information about that. That could obviously just be a jank, tab target, awful game, but we'll judge that when we judge that. For now, hey, New World's back, baby. Let me know your thoughts. Have a beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.